Ever wonder how the United States got its separation of church and state? A big piece of that puzzle lies with one man, James Madison. And to really understand him, we need to look at his religious roots. You see, Madison was born into the heart of the Anglican establishment in Virginia. In colonial times, the Anglican Church, or the Church of England, was the official, tax-supported religion. If you lived in Virginia, you were part of it, whether you liked it or not. Madison was baptized Anglican, educated by Anglican ministers, and surrounded by a society where Anglicanism was the law of the land. His family was prominent in the local parish, which was more than just a church, it was a center of community and government. But growing up in this environment didn't make Madison a blind follower. In fact, it did the opposite. It gave him a front row seat to the problems that arise when church and state are intertwined. As a young man, Madison was deeply troubled by what he saw. He witnessed firsthand the persecution of religious dissenters, particularly Baptists. These were people who didn't conform to the Anglican way, and for that, they were fined, harassed, and even thrown in jail simply for preaching their beliefs. Madison wrote letters to his friends expressing his disgust at what he called this diabolical, hell-conceived principle of persecution. He saw it not just as unfair, but as a violation of a fundamental human right, the right to think for oneself in matters of faith. This early experience lit a fire in him, a passion for what he would later call liberty of conscience. His education further fueled this fire. Madison went to the College of New Jersey, which we now know as Princeton University. This was a significant choice. Unlike Virginia's own College of William and Mary, which was an Anglican stronghold, Princeton was a center of the Scottish Enlightenment and Presbyterian thought. There, under the mentorship of its president, John Witherspoon, Madison was exposed to radical new ideas about liberty, reason, and individual rights. He dove into the works of thinkers like John Locke, who argued that religious belief was a matter of personal conviction, not government coercion. This intellectual journey solidified his belief that a person's relationship with their Creator was sacred and should be free from any government interference. When the American Revolution began, Madison saw an opportunity to put these ideas into action. In 1776, he was a delegate to the Virginia Convention, tasked with drafting a new constitution and a Declaration of Rights for the state. An early draft of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, written by George Mason, proposed toleration for all religions. But for Madison, toleration wasn't enough. The word implied that the government was granting a privilege that it could also take away. Madison argued for something much stronger. He proposed changing the language from toleration to free exercise of religion. It seems like a small change, but the difference is huge. Free exercise means that religious freedom is an inherent, natural right, not a gift from the state. His amendment declared that all men are equally entitled to the free exercise of religion, according to the dictates of conscience. This was a revolutionary concept, and its passage in Virginia set a powerful precedent for the entire nation. It was the first time this right was codified in this way, shifting the entire framework of how government viewed religion. After the Revolution, the fight wasn't over. In the 1780s, a bill was proposed in Virginia to levy a general tax to support Christian teachers of all denominations. This was called the General Assessment Bill. Prominent figures like Patrick Henry supported it, arguing it would promote public morality. But Madison saw it as a dangerous step backward. He believed that any government support for religion, no matter how general, would inevitably lead to corruption and conflict. It would force citizens to support beliefs they didn't hold and would entangle religion in politics. To defeat the bill, Madison anonymously penned one of the most important documents in American history on religious freedom, the Memorial and Remonstrance Against Religious Assessments. In it, he laid out 15 powerful arguments for a complete separation of church and state. He argued that religion was a duty owed only to God, and it must be directed by reason and conviction, not by force. He warned that government support for religion had, throughout history, led to pride and indolence in the clergy and ignorance and servility in the laity. He essentially said that state support was bad for both the government and for religion itself. Religion, he believed, would flourish best when it was left to the voluntary support of its followers. The Memorial and Remonstrance was a masterpiece of persuasion. It circulated throughout Virginia, rallied public opinion, and the General Assessment Bill was soundly defeated. Riding this wave of momentum, Madison then pushed for the passage of a bill that Thomas Jefferson had written years earlier, the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom. This landmark law, passed in 1786, disestablished the Anglican Church entirely and guaranteed that no one could be compelled to attend or support any church. Nor could they be punished for their religious beliefs. Virginia had become a true beacon of religious liberty, thanks in large part to Madison's tireless efforts. These experiences in Virginia were the training ground for Madison's greatest contribution to religious freedom. When it came time to draft a Bill of Rights for the new United States Constitution, Madison was the key architect. Drawing on his years of thought, debate, and legislative battles, he crafted the words that would become the First Amendment. He proposed that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Let's break that down. The first part, the Establishment Clause, prevents the government from creating a national church or favoring one religion over another. This was a direct response to the system he grew up with in Anglican Virginia. The second part, the Free Exercise Clause, protects an individual's right to believe and practice their faith without government interference. This was the principle he fought for back in 1776. Together, these two clauses created what Thomas Jefferson would later call a wall of separation between church and state. It's important to understand that Madison wasn't anti-religion. Far from it. He believed that this separation was the best way to protect religion from the corrupting influence of politics and to allow authentic faith to thrive on its own terms. He had seen how a state church could become complacent and how persecution could arise when one group had government power. His solution was to get the government out of the religion business entirely. Later in his life, as president, Madison continued to uphold this principle. He vetoed bills that he believed breached the wall of separation, including one to incorporate an Episcopal church in Washington, D.C., and another to grant federal land to a Baptist church. He was consistent and unwavering. Even though he himself was affiliated with the Episcopal Church, the American successor to the Anglican Church, he never let his personal background compromise his commitment to a secular government. So, when we look at James Madison, we see a fascinating journey.